thinking about reality as a dynamic process and his view of human beings as creative and evolving should be helpful to anyone who seeks to go beyond simply dealing with the practical demands of daily life. Of special importance is Bergson's claim that it is both possible and necessary to know from the inside, rather than confining our attention to external perspectives and points of view. Intuition is able to get beyond what is relative and place us inside reality. This essay is, as the title says, an introduction. But if we think there is more to a human being, and even to nature itself, than material structures alone, no matter how useful they are, perhaps the time has come to take a fresh look at Bergson's essay. If we compare various definitions of metaphysics with conceptions of the absolute, we realize that in spite of their apparent differences, philosophers agree in distinguishing two profoundly different ways of knowing. The first implies that we move around something, and the second, that we enter into it. The first one depends on the viewpoint we take and on the symbol by which we encounter it. The second takes no point of view and does not rely on any symbol. Of the first kind of knowledge, we say that it stops with something relative. Of the second kind, where possible, that it reaches the absolute. For example, consider an object moving in space. I perceive it differently, depending on whether the point of view from which I look at it is moving or fixed. I explain it differently according to the system of axes or points of reference from which I give my account. In other words, according to the symbols by which I translate it. And I call it relative for this double reason. In both cases, I place myself outside of the object. When I talk about an absolute movement, I attribute an interior to what moves, as with aspects of the soul. I sympathize with those aspects and immerse myself in them by an effect of the imagination. Therefore, depending on whether the object is mobile or immobile, or whether it adopts one movement or another, I will not experience the same thing. And what I experience will not depend either on the point of view that I might adopt regarding the object, because I will be in the object itself, or on the symbols by which I convey it, because I dismissed all translation in order to grasp the original. In short, the movement will not be grasped from the outside in some way where I am, but from the inside, from within it. Thus I will grasp the absolute. Yet someone may recount the adventures of a character in a novel. The storyteller could multiply the character's traits and make the hero move and talk at will, but this would not be the simple and indivisible feeling that I would experience if I could coincide for a moment with the character itself. Thus, the actions, the gestures, and the words would seem to flow naturally, as if from their source. They would no longer be accidents added to an idea that I had already formed of the character, always enriching that idea without ever completing it. The character would be given to me all at once in its full integrity. The thousands of incidents that manifest it, instead of strengthening the idea and enriching it, seem to me, on the contrary, to separate from it, without exhausting or weakening its essence. Everything told about the person provides me with too many points of view. All the traits that describe and allow me to know the person by comparisons with people or things that I already know are signs by which to express them more or less symbolically. Therefore, symbols and points of view place me outside of people. They deliver